Good afternoon, everyone. I think we've got everybody that we need now, so fantastic. My name is Laura Hodgkiss. I'm the event and training team leader here at Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce, and it's lovely to have you all here for our webinar this afternoon. Before we get going, for those of you that have not been to one of our webinars before, there is a little slide across the bottom there where you've got a couple of functions that you can communicate with us today. We cannot see and we cannot hear you today, so don't worry about if you need to pop off to grab a cup of tea or a drink halfway through. We won't be able to see any of that, and we won't be able to hear you either. The functions at the bottom there will allow you to chat with us today, and they'll also allow a question and answer at the end of the webinar as well. But I would ask kindly if you could leave your questions till the end, just for Helen to get through them all. So today our webinar is Sleep Well, Feel Great, which I'm sure we could all do with a little bit of sleep at the moment with the current climate. And our speaker today is Helen de Santos, and she's going to start the webinar today. So Helen, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Before I make a start, I just want to say a huge thank you to Laura, who's been absolutely brilliant, and also to the Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce, who I think in the current climate, which clearly is totally unprecedented, the Chamber have been absolutely brilliant at taking very quick reactive action to help support businesses in Staffordshire. So just a little tribute really to the Chamber, and a massive thank you. Yes, so sleep is the topic this afternoon, and it's so vital to our well-being, and one thing it's definitely not is optional. I compare sleep sometimes to flying. If you're taking a flight somewhere, you can choose to fly economy, you can upgrade to business class, you can, if you can afford it, fly first class, and you have those options available to you. But with sleep, it's quite simple. If you don't sleep, you don't fly. So just hold that thought. So in essence, if we don't sleep, we don't function. And today we're going to look at some great takeaway tips that you can start to put into practice immediately. What I'm not going to be doing today is covering much of the science of sleep, just on the basis that we just haven't got enough time. So just a tiny bit about me. This is me. I run my own business, Horizons Coaching, which, as I say, launched a few years ago, back in 2016, with the great help of the Chamber, and I still remain a member of the Chamber today. So I'm a one-man band, I'm a sole trader, and the sorts of things I do is specialise in mental health, well-being and resilience, and provide one-to-one support for people, as well as run sessions, workshops, now virtually doing them, into organisations. And I love what I do. So I've had to very quickly adapt, as I'm sure a lot of you have, into using virtual video conferencing, and start working in a completely different way. So this afternoon, we're going to look at why we really don't sleep very well, the sorts of things that cause that, the importance to our health and the benefits, and what we can do to sort of develop some good habits. And once we've got through all the sort of practical tips, we're going to get into looking at some breathing exercises and finish off with a mindfulness session. So at this point, you'll probably be quite glad to know that we can't see you, because if you're curled up on your settee or lying on your bed for the mindfulness session, that's perfectly fine, and you can do that with great discretion. So just before we get started, I wanted to share with you a little bit of research about sleep. Because in the 1950s, adults tended to sleep for an average of about 8 hours. In 2013, it was noted that that had dropped significantly to about 6.5 hours. And nowadays, the research is telling us the average adult sleeps for about 5 hours, which is probably a lot less than our bodies require. For those of you who have teenagers, teenagers do tend to sleep for about 9 hours. That doesn't normally tend to be a problem when they're not having to get up to go to school. Most kids can sleep for England. So just some facts before we get started there. Just a few more facts then. And excuse me, interestingly, it seems about a third of us suffer with some form of sleep problems. Sleep issues tend to be most common in women, and you can imagine, you can probably relate to that, particularly with young mums having to get up to perhaps deal with newborns throughout the night, etc., and their bodies are having to adjust to those patterns. And for some women, they never actually get back to normal, having been through that. I don't know why, but the cities that seem to be most affected by sleep problems in the UK seem to be Cardiff and Sheffield. And insomnia can actually be hereditary. But the brilliant news is it is manageable. Now, again, just to share some more facts with you, interestingly, we spend 26 years of our life sleeping, approximately 7 years trying to go off to sleep. So that's the equivalent of 33 years that we actually spend in bed. So if you're going to be in bed for that long, isn't it worth it trying to make it of value and quality rather than tossing and turning? So let's start to look at what actually causes the lack of sleep. And I'm going to home in on the second one down there, life-changing experiences. I think normally I would have said things like divorce, relationship breakups, bereavement, those sorts of things. But I would say the situation that we're going through now with COVID-19 is probably quite a life-changing experience. It's certainly unexpected. We've had to make drastic changes, and that in itself can affect an awful lot about our routines and therefore impact on our sleeping patterns. Anyone suffering with mental health problems can have issues related to sleep, and worry is a massive one. And right now, again, for people who are perhaps furloughed, or even business owners worried about when they'll be able to get their business back up and running again. There's people facing cash flow difficulties. There's all sorts. I wouldn't like to be in the situation of employing staff at the moment, feeling as though I've got the responsibility of their financial commitments on my shoulders. That would be absolutely massive. Things like working late at night, again, going past your normal sort of time that you would go to sleep can cause you to then be out of cycle and out of sync with your normal sleeping pattern. And I'm going to refer to Sunday nights, because, for me at the moment, I think this probably may not well apply, but we're not going to be in this situation forever. So it's worth just picking up on this. All too often people say to me, most of the time I sleep quite well, except on a Sunday night. And that's because at some point during Sunday, we start thinking about the next day being a working day. We start thinking about what we've perhaps got in our diary, what we're going to start doing. You were starting to give away part of your 2-day weekend. You work for 5 and only have 2 days off. But we start letting work encroach into our weekend. And then we find we're struggling to focus on just having a really great night's sleep on a Sunday. So again, some of the tips that I share with you today will hopefully help to try and reduce that. And as I say, I don't know if that applies at the moment, because every day just feels like the next right now. So I'm not sure if folk are having a Sunday night problem with sleeping. Okay then. So how do we actually feel when we've had that really awful night's sleep? And And there's a lust you'll probably all be able to relate to. I am the worst person to know if I've not slept well. And certainly moody and irritable. I'm snappy. I'm not the best person to be around. The problem with feeling like that, and particularly I'm going to pick up on the lack of concentration. It will affect our judgment in terms of making decisions. So if you're having a bad night's sleep in the middle of the week when you are trying to get on with work, making those decisions and hopefully sound judgments could quite well be affected when your sleep has been compromised. When it comes to going to sleep the following night, you may well feel so shattered, but actually find it quite difficult to get off to sleep again. You may find yourself waking up several times in the night, or just lying awake, willing yourself to go to sleep. There is absolutely nothing worse than that. And that's when thoughts start sort of running through our minds. And that can be quite distracting in itself, for then even trying to get off to sleep at all. So what can we do to obtain a really decent night's sleep? Consistent sleep patterns. My sleep pattern has changed slightly since I'm working from home more. I used to tend to have my alarm set for about 6 o'clock in the morning. If I was networking, sometimes it would be earlier. And I generally go to bed about 10 o'clock in the evening. I might read for a little while, so I was probably sleeping from about 10:30 till 6. I'm finding I can comfortably sleep till about 6:30 to 6:45 now. So it's interesting, with not setting an alarm, just noticing what my body naturally requires. And I'm still tending to go to sleep at about 10:30. So that would start to tell me that the getting up at 6 o'clock, I'm probably depriving myself of a little bit of sleep. So that might mean I need to go to sleep earlier or get up later. So one of the tips is only go to bed when you're tired. So despite me saying, try and get into a pattern, if I was sort of tending to go to sleep most nights at 10, but I didn't feel tired, I would tend to go to bed and probably read for a while. I'm one of those people where reading actually does make me very sleepy. For some people, it tends to do the opposite. They tend to get so engrossed in the book that it actually keeps them wide awake. So sometimes you have to find the sort of thing that works for you. If you have gone to bed and you're lying awake, good 20 minutes after you've gone to sleep, get up, do something else. Otherwise, you're lying there, willing yourself, getting frustrated and annoyed that you're not going to sleep. So some tips then about your actual space in your room. Our bedroom's designed to sort of be quite calming and relaxing. We don't have a TV in our bedroom. It is our kind of sleeping space. And one of the things that I'm not the best of sleepers. I have to have a blackout blind because of, and the next point there is about exposure to bright lights. And I'm actually talking about devices. My exposure to light, so as we get into more of the summer months and it starts getting lighter at 5 o'clock in the morning, bing, eyes wide open. And that's because your brain starts to recognize the daylight. I have the same problem with the summer evenings as well, where it's still light quite late. So hence the blackout blind. And that's about fooling some of my brain chemicals then, in terms of just making my body start to realize my room is dark and it's ready, I'm ready for bed. Making sure your room is quite cool. So even throughout winter, we do tend to sleep with our windows open. I'm not talking wide open, it's a tiny little gap, but you've got some air circulating through the room. What we also tend to nudge the heating down a bit. You might have your heating on 20 plus degrees in the day. That's fine. You want to be warm and toasty in the day. At night, your body temperature naturally drops. You don't want your bedroom feeling like a tropical island in the middle of the night. So just see if you can perhaps drop the heating system a little bit. And I've got on there about sort of watching your caffeine and alcohol intake close to bedtime. There isn't a hard and fast rule on this. Some people will sort of say, actually, if I have a little tot of brandy before going to bed, I doze off really well. Well, you know what, if it works, then it doesn't need fixing. If you do have an espresso an hour before going to bed and find you're lying awake most of the night, then I'd say perhaps have a milky hot chocolate instead of an espresso. So it's play around with it and see what might work best for you, really. And then some other tips then. A relaxing bedtime ritual. Some people like to have a nice long soak in the bath before going to bed. People I know spray lavender spray around their room, even lavender spray on the pillow, anything like that. And there's a bit of a placebo effect here, because actually if you believe those things work for you, then they will. I mentioned reading earlier. That's certainly something I try to do. Reading for just 6 minutes has quite a profound impact. It can reduce stress levels by up to 68%, which is quite phenomenal. It also slows your heart rate down, as well as ease muscle tension. So it really does gear up the body for that state of relaxation and in preparation for going off to sleep. Go tech-free. At the moment, we're probably exposed more to technology than ever before. I try to have a curfew. I'm going to say I do have a curfew. I try to have a cut-off point where I switch my mobile off, and it would be through my mobile in the evenings that I'd be accessing LinkedIn, etc. But I try to have a point where I just switch it off, and that's it. I don't go back on it until the next morning. And that again is helping your mind start to relax and unwind. The minute you see something on LinkedIn and it could get you annoyed, it could get you worked up, it could get you reading something, might fire you up about things to do with work. Actually, those are not the right feelings you want to be experiencing just before trying to go off to bed. So as I say, think about having a point in time where you just switch your phone off of an evening. Offload on paper. I'm a big believer in just having a notepad or a post-it notepad and a pen next to my bed. Your brain is a wonderful tool. But if you're lying there or you wake up in the night thinking, oh, I forgot to send an email to so-and-so, your brain is going to help you to stay awake, because it fears if it lets you go to sleep, you're going to forget that thought. So actually, if you've got a little notepad and you can just scribble a note next to you, then actually you've downloaded that information, that thought, onto your piece of paper, and that's going to make it so much easier for you to go back off to sleep again. And one of the things that we're going to look at just now is actually how do you deal with those moments where you wake up in the night and you can't get back to sleep. And that's going to be part of our sort of mindfulness session when we come on to that. Try avoid napping in the day. That is going to have an impact on how well you sleep at night. So if at all possible, try not to do that. If it is that you're suffering with some form of illness, then I would tend to say actually sleeping does tend to help it as a healing factor. So that would be perfectly fine. But just kind of like having cat naps in the day because you'd like to, the chances are that is going to impact on your sleeping routine. Think about things like your mattress and your pillows. They do tend to recommend mattresses be changed about every 10 years. And I'm a stickler for my pillow. If my husband's made the bed and he swapped his pillows with my pillow, when it comes to going to bed that night and I'm sort of against my husband's pillow, I really can tell the difference. But find something that works for you. Some people like one pillow, some people like two. It's whatever you're comfortable with, but make sure that you're not waking up in the morning with any stiffness in your neck, because that might imply that your pillow's not fat enough or you've got too much behind your neck. Consider removing your clock. Now, I've taken to covering our clock radio, because I am of an age where I tend to get up in the night and use the bathroom. But what I don't want to do is see the time when I go back to bed. Sometimes I've got up around 4 a.m. and seen the time and thought, oh, I'm going to be up again in a couple of hours. And psychologically, that is almost saying to me, it's not worth going back to sleep for. So then I've ended up losing out on some sleep. But actually, if you don't know what the time is, the chances are you're just going to get back into bed and go off to sleep again. So removing your clock might not be the best suggestion if you're relying on it going off in the morning, but certainly see if you can cover it at some point. And things like earplugs. I live with somebody who constantly snores and I wear earplugs, but having that sound blocked out is absolutely brilliant. So I do feel like I'm in my own silent world, which is exactly what you want when you're sleeping. I can remember when we first got married, I used to say to my husband, I used to wake him up in the night saying, stop breathing. Well, actually, I didn't mean that, but his breathing was just so heavy that it was keeping me awake. So think about some of those things, whether you can adopt some of those. As I say, I've mentioned about the reading. If reading doesn't work for you, I have got some suggestions at the end of the presentation where you could look at mindfulness apps that might help you and sometimes for some people it could just be listening to a really nice piece of music even. Okay. So the importance, why is it important that we get a good night's sleep? Oh, there's nothing nicer than getting up in the morning feeling wide awake and refreshed. But there's other things that happen as well. There's a whole load of healing and repair going on. And we tend to, I mean, I don't want to sound sexist here, but I sort of tend to say I refer to my beauty sleep, and us ladies might do. Gentlemen, you might do too. But we don't jest when we say that. There is a whole load of renewal and repair going on with our skin cells, our organs, and it's all taking place very much at a subconscious level. We are not aware of it. It helps us maintain a healthy weight. Actually, you're more prone when you're tired to eat more. It lowers the risk of health problems, and that's because it's boosting our immune system. Reduces stress levels. I think I said earlier, I'm not the nicest of people to know when I've had a bad night's sleep, and I would probably not the most patient of people either, and my patient levels would be through the roof if I hadn't slept well. Aids memory improvement. One of the things, if you're suffering with a bad night's sleep, you're finding that you're not so great at making decisions. You might actually put off making decisions or make the wrong ones, which is even worse. And your judgment could be impaired about certain things. So definitely helps in terms of those sorts of skills. And emotional well-being. You just feel better in yourself. Calmer, happier, and being able to literally just function so much better, and feeling alert, alert and feeling refreshed when you are awake. So let's just look at what happens when we are sleeping. And as I say, these are the sorts of things that you're just blissfully unaware of. It's just going, your body's doing all of this on autopilot. But we've got the release of some great chemicals there, serotonin and endorphins, along with your growth hormones, your tissues and cell repairs happening. And your immune system is being improved all the time with a good night's sleep. Now, actually, in the current climate, I think it's ever more important than ever before to actually protect our immune system as much as we can, given COVID-19 at the moment. So we definitely wouldn't want that part of our body to be suffering at all. And I personally quite like that last one. A good night's sleep burns off fat and sugar stored around the tummy. I'd sleep all day long if I thought I could have a great figure thanks to sleeping. But yeah, it actually, because if you're sleeping well, you're feeling more energetic, and so you're less likely to do the excessive eating and possibly even comfort eating. So there's a lot that goes on, as I say, within our bodies that we're really just not even aware of. So we are at the point now where I'm more than happy to take any questions. I might just need a little bit of a guiding hand from Lauren now.
Hi.
Laura, hi.
So this is the first part of the questions, isn't it, Helen?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So has anybody got any questions that they want to ask Helen, which you can do so via the Q&A at the bottom of the screen? I'll just give you about a minute just to write your questions, as I do know it takes a little bit of time for it to come through on the webinar. So I'll just wait for just a minute or so just for the questions to come through. So John Beresford has just said sleep is often overlooked as a central health component. It seems like there may be figures to suggest this. So I get the feeling that people are just wondering whether there's figures involved in this, Helen, in reference to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it depends where you look. The average is 1 out of every 3 people tend to suffer with a sleep problem of some sort. So it really is quite high. I think in the UK, it's something like 16 million people are reported to have sleep problems.
Wow, that's quite a statistic. So we've got a couple of questions for you, Helen. So Mary just says, would you recommend going to bed at the same time as your partner, if possible, to avoid disturbing each other?
You can. I mean, my husband and I do, and but then I tend to like reading, and then he's trying to doze off and I've got the light on. So occasionally I tend to come up to bed at around about 10. He'll follow about 15 minutes later, knowing by then I'll be ready to sort of close the book, or I've got the book on my face at that point. I think if you're going to go to bed at separate times, you need to allow sufficient enough time for that person to have dropped into a deep sleep. Because sometimes if you disturb them when they're just at that first phase of sleeping, then actually they end up becoming wide awake, and it becomes more difficult for them to try and doze off again.
Wonderful. Okay, brilliant. And we've got a couple more questions. What if you're doing night shifts? Any tips When you are on your days off and back to normal sleeping patterns, so any tips for sort of night shift workers?
Again, I think trying to just get back into your what would be your sort of normal nighttime pattern. Shift work is the worst thing for sleep, I'm afraid. But again, if you've got 2 or 3 days off, just try and keep to sort of going to bed as about the same time and waking up roughly about the same time again. But I suspect it takes a few days to adjust back into sleeping at night, and then before you know it, you're back on your night shift again. But as I say, there's some information on the very last slide when we finish the mindfulness. So it may be that you could look at some of those apps to perhaps see if they will help you go off to sleep as well. But yeah, I feel for you being a shift worker.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a couple more. You mentioned coffee and alcohol having an effect on sleep. Do you think certain foods can also have the same effect, and is there any foods that you would avoid?
Again, they tend to say spicy food can affect your sleep. Probably 3/4 of the population eat curry. So if you tend to eat early, I would say it's not going to be a problem. If you find you do eat very hot, spicy curries, and as an example, and on those particular evenings you don't sleep well, then your body's telling you something. It goes back to the espresso coffee. You know, if you're having an espresso at 10 o'clock at night and you still sleep fine, then there's nothing to worry about. But because it's so personal to you, it's such an individual thing, you would have to experiment a little bit with it.
Wonderful. So there's a couple more questions, believe it or not, Helen, so bear with me.
Okay, no, that's fine.
John says, I meditate during the day. Is this classed as napping, and is this a problem?
No, it's a form of relaxation. So I'll carry on doing what you're doing.
Brilliant.
It's bringing your stress levels down.
From your experience, Helen, do you think colleagues should tell their managers if they're struggling to sleep, especially if it's impacting on their workday?
I would. It almost falls into the category of presenteeism, where perhaps someone who could be going through a marriage breakdown and feeling very emotionally upset by everything, but still keeps going into work, when ideally they maybe could do with a couple of days off just to get themselves a little bit more together and just give themselves a bit of time. And it's at times like that, when we're going into work, when we're not functioning virtually on all cylinders, that we could be making mistakes, and that could affect the business.
Okay, and just one more, Helen, and before we go, what is the best activity to do if you can't sleep? You said you get up after 20 minutes if you weren't feeling sleepy, so what activity would you recommend?
Again, it depends on you. If watching TV is going to make you feel more alert, I wouldn't watch telly. Again, I would perhaps try some mindfulness. Just listening to a mindfulness app might relax you. Think about why it is you can't get to sleep. If it's things that are going through your mind, whereby it's a case of, oh, I didn't do this today, I've got to do that tomorrow, I mustn't forget to email this person. Start writing those down, because as I say, the way your brain's working is it's thinking, by keeping you awake, it's helping you to remember those things. And it's very clever, but actually it's incredibly inconvenient when that's going on at night. So write as much down as you can. If it is that you haven't got anything particular on your mind, as I say, try reading, try having a bath before going to bed, a nice warm bath. You could throw some lavender oil in your bath, etc. that there's loads of different things you can do, but you have to almost find what works for you. So as I say, lavender oil, reading. If watching telly is going to relax you, watch a bit of telly. If it's going to make you wide awake, then clearly that's not going to help. So as I say, it is a little bit of trial and error.
Fantastic. Brilliant, Helen. Thank you very much. I think we're all done with the questions.
Okay. This is now my technology challenge again, isn't it? All right. So just bear with me then. Now, I think I'm going to have to stop sharing so that I can just come out of PowerPoint, so bear with me. Oh, Laura, I might need your help. Oh, right. I think I'm
that's fine. We can't hear at your end, so it just might just take a couple of minutes. Just bear with us, guys. We're just sorting out the sound, so it won't take 2 seconds. Are you okay sharing your screen, Helen?
Yeah, I think I'm there now.
Brilliant, fantastic. Fantastic.
So before I make that a large screen, can everybody hear that? Can you hear that, Laura?
Yes, it's lovely.
Okay, all right. So I'm just going to make that. That should go onto a full screen now. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is just give you a little exercise that you could do if you do wake up in the night. This is kind of called wakeful worries, where you do possibly wake up in the middle of the night and you've had that moment where you've suddenly thought, oh, have I left the car lights on? Did I lock the back door? And it's in those moments that it really does jerk you away, and then you may feel you need to get up and check you did actually lock the door, but then find it quite difficult to go back to sleep again. So just for a moment, it's worth probably just trying this anyway. So just get yourself nice and comfortable. So obviously in the middle of the night you'd be lying in your bed, and so as you get yourself nice and comfortable, I just want you to imagine. You can close your eyes if you want to do this. We can't see you, so it's totally discreet. So if you want to imagine that you're standing at the bottom of a waterfall, and that water is just cascading over you, and it's cold, and you can hear the sound of the water. It's so powerful that you can barely keep on your feet, and you feel as though you're about to fall or slip. And then you notice that within reach there's a tree hanging over, and you can grab and hold the closest branch to steady you steady yourself. And you find that you can haul yourself out from underneath the waterfall. And you look down from a safe, high space and realize that you can leave all your worries behind you, just in the same way that you left the waterfall behind you. I just think that's a nice one to try. If you wake up in the night and say you've had a thought, something's woken you up, and so you can try this whenever you've woken up in the middle of the night. And that branch of that tree represents the part of your brain that wants to draw you away from that cascade of worry, back to that place of calm, and back to that state of sleepiness again. So try that. You can try that either when you wake up in the middle of the night, something's woken you, or as you're going to sleep. And just imagine you're in that safe place, ready to sleep. So that's just one very simple tip. The other thing I would like you to try is, just for a moment, just want you to think about your breathing. Don't deliberately take in any deep breaths at all, but just literally, if it helps, you could put one hand on your chest and one hand on your tummy, and just notice where the rise and fall is. Is it more your chest cavity or your tummy? Because that tends to signal where we're breathing, where we're drawing the breath down into our bodies. And then I want you to take in a nice deep breath, and perhaps count to 4, breathing in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then out to the count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now for some people that might have been too long, and it might have felt like you were really squeezing the air out. The idea is, if your out breath is longer than your in breath, you're actually getting rid of toxins and stress out of your body. So whatever counting you want to apply, whatever works for you, just make sure that out breath is longer than the in breath. So I'm going to suggest we try that again, but I'm going to leave you to do the counting. So just take in a nice deep breath when you're ready. And out when you're ready. And again, in. And then this time when you breathe in, I want you to just be saying to yourself, breathing in calm and breathing out tension. Breathing in calm and breathing out tension. And again, that's a lovely one just to practice before going off to sleep if you're struggling. And perhaps you've got that traffic all going on, all those thoughts going on in your mind. Because the minute you're starting to focus on your breathing, your brain is naturally having to think about something completely differently. Okay, so now we're going to just finish off with a bit of mindfulness. So make sure that you're sitting really comfortably. If you want to lie down, curl up on your settee at home, whatever you're comfortable with. Laura, if you want to blank out your screen and go with this, then you'll perhaps feel less self-conscious. That's perfectly fine. So I'm going to just ask that you take in a nice deep breath. And just keep breathing like this. And you can slowly breathing down even further as we continue. And we're going to start counting now, breathing in the count of 4, hold the count of 3, and breathe out to the count of 5. So breathing in now, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in again, hold, and breathe out. Breathe in, and keep breathing now, just letting your breath naturally become more slow. You are learning the relaxation skill of slowing your breathing. You can actually feel yourself calming down as you breathe slowly and calmly. This calm breathing helps you focus and be alert and relaxed. You're learning how to relax under pressure. Continue to breathe slowly, and every so often you notice your breathing and focus on allowing breathing to slow down. Now I'd like you to concentrate on your muscles. You may find that you're holding tension in your muscles. Pay attention to your shoulders, your hands, your jaw. Consciously lower your shoulders. Let your shoulders relax and allow the muscles to loosen. This act of relaxing your shoulders allows you to become calm because it places your body in a relaxed, easy position instead of a tense one. Now notice your hands. Let your hands be open, loose, and relaxed. Let your arms rest by your sides, letting go of all tension, just relaxing. You're learning how to relax under pressure. Now focus on your jaw. Allow your jaw to rest loosely so your teeth are not touching. Just let your mouth be loose and relaxed. Just mentally scan your body now, noticing any areas that are tense. When you notice tension, concentrate on that area. Allow your muscles to give up the tension that they've been holding. Allow your body to relax. You're learning how to relax under pressure. Focus on your breathing again, noticing, relaxing. Count each breath again if you like. Breathing in the count of 4, holding for the count of 3, and breathing out to the count of 5. Now concentrate on your thoughts. Imagine each affirmation that follows and believe each one to be true. You may want to repeat each phrase silently in your mind. You are learning to relax under pressure. I am calm. I am relaxed. I know how to relax easily. I relax whenever I want. I handle situations with ease. I am prepared. I am focused. I am strong. I am confident. I am so deeply relaxed. I am so calm and serene. I concentrate easily on the task at hand. I easily relax under pressure. I easily relax under pressure. I feel calm and relaxed under pressure. I am capable. I am intelligent. I am worthy. I am skilled. I am relaxed. I am relaxed. And every time you are under pressure, remember to do the 3 relaxation techniques you have just practiced. Calm breathing, relax your muscles, calm the thoughts. You can relax at any time you need to. And the relaxation will help you to concentrate and keep your brain functioning at its best. The slightest feeling of nervousness is you to relax. You relax every day, and you relax in every situation. Go through the relaxation exercises as many times as you need in preparation for high pressure situations. When you relax, these situations can feel much less stressful. Breathe deeply, relax your muscles, calm thoughts. Breathe deeply, relax your muscles. This relaxation exercise, you can relax again anytime you need to, and will experience the most benefit if you practice relaxing every day. For now, it's time to return to the day ahead. Slowly reawaken your mind and body, becoming alert and awake while remaining relaxed and calm. I'm going to ask you now to take in some nice deep breaths. Perhaps stretch your arms, stretch your legs out in front of you. Have a good stretch. Start to open your eyes and just sit quietly for a few moments. Feel fully alert. You can resume your usual activities, feeling fully calm and refreshed and relaxed. Just taking a nice deep breath and open your eyes when you feel ready. return back to our presentation, so just bear with me a moment. So that's the page with the useful information on. You've got headspace, Laura, can you see that? Can everyone see that?
Do you want to just share your other screen, Helen, just so you've got the...
Oh, sorry.
That's all right, don't worry. That's absolutely fine.
I'm just going to pause that. Technology is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Right, that should...
Brilliant.
There we go. Okay, so there's some information there. Headspace and Insight Timer. You can get free downloads there for things like mindfulness. With Headspace, I think they do a free trial and then you have to start paying. With Insight, sorry, that should be Timer with a R on the end, not time, Insight Timer. They do quite a lot of free apps for people to download. And then there are some mini mindfulness courses as well if people are interested in learning more about mindfulness. And then a book that I've read quite recently is by Anna Black, Mindfulness and Sleep. So it's joining the two together for the benefit of getting a good night's sleep. So I think that pretty much covers the afternoon. Do you want to allow for any more questions at all, Laura, at this point?
No, unless anybody's got any quick questions that they want. We've just got a couple of people thanking you in the chat, Helen. Just thank you for today, just saying it was really, really useful. It was lovely today, so thank you very much. For those of you that don't know, we are hosting webinars pretty much every day at 2 p.m, so do look out for those. However, if you did come to us halfway through Helen's, or you missed the beginning part of Helen's webinar today, you can find it on our webinar library on the Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce website, so do look out for that as well. So if you do want to use Helen's tips that we did in the latter part of the webinar, you will be able to access that on our webinar library via the Chamber's website. So just getting a couple of thank yous there, Helen. So one from Samantha, one from John, from Kylie, from Marie, from Kelly, from Deirdre, from Jodie. So really, really great today, Helen. So thank you ever so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I hope everybody has a good night's sleep.
Hopefully everybody will after this. If anybody should have any questions, like I said, there will be Helen's webinar up on the library on our Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce website. Apart from that, Helen, is there anything else you want to say before I end the meeting today?
No, apart from just a massive thank you for everyone who has joined in, and again thanks to the Chamber for accommodating things like this for people. It's really good. Great.
Absolute pleasure, Helen. Absolute pleasure. Okay, everybody, we'll see you all very soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.